I am, of course, being joined by Jasmine Sandwalia of the BJP and Tehseen Poonawalla from our previous debate. But I want to first go across to Apar Gupta, who is the advocate and co-founder of Internet Freedom Foundation. Apar, thank you so much for joining us on Mirror Now. I'm sure you would have read these reports first and foremost of the justifications being put out by the Railway Ministry to get Twitter or X to remove these 285 URLs, citing X's own code of conduct as well as normative norms that need to be followed on social media. As someone who champions net neutrality and internet freedoms, do you buy this logic?
So there are three short points I want to make. The first is the incident itself, which has been widely reported, is clearly in public interest, concerns the loss of life in a public place, and the videos which have been shot around it place accountability on a public office, which is the Ministry of Railways. In a way, it is within the scope of any kind of accountability which leads to improvement. It is at the core of a democratic discourse. That's the first point. The second one is that the press report, which has been first published in the Hindustan Times by Aditya Agarwal, subsequently been carried by others, is a press report, but we do not have a copy of the legal notice which has been sent by the Ministry of Railways to X. This is the correspondence between the both of them. Hence, we are only reading selectively on the basis of what has been in the report and what has been leaked out in a way. And what that indicates is a complete lack of transparency, because if it is for the removal of, let's say, 285 tweets, as the press report states, then whether those 285 people, I'm imagining that each tweet comes from one different person, have been afforded an opportunity of what is called as a hearing, that I have published this in a way that was within the bounds of law, which is called the opportunity of being heard, which is natural justice. So this is a secret order which has been issued by the Ministry of Railways, and the press has got access of it and has then informed us. Otherwise, these 285 tweets would have disappeared. These videos would have disappeared from the web without any of us realizing anytime soon. The third thing I'd just like to point out here is that the railways, as per this press report, has not indicated any breach of underlying law. For instance, obscenity, hate speech, defamation. What they are stating is that this will be in contravention to X's own content moderation practices, but does not indicate how, does not reason why. It also does not state that which provision of Indian law has been violated by these videos. With these three short points, I will just turn it over to the other panelists that the entire blocking process and direction which has been issued, in my estimation, is anti-democratic. It is not legal by itself and amounts to secret censorship.
Now, Apar, if I could just have one more follow-up question, and if I had to play the devil's advocate here, it's about if you go into the argument of regulating content for the sake of not inciting or hurting sentiments. For instance, on television, we have very clear rules and regulations. We cannot show dead bodies. We cannot show bloodshed without grayscaling it or without sensitively hiding it. For instance, we cannot show photographs of someone who is a victim of sexual assault at this point or reveal the identity. So far, those rules have not applied to social media, especially to X. So would you not argue then that if all that the government is trying to do is at least ensure that X or other forms of social media form the same unwritten or at least followed rules of mass media broadcasting that have been followed by conventional media?
That's an excellent question, but there are core distinctions, firstly, in a television broadcast, as well as in any kind of tweet which is put up on Twitter. The first thing which we need to remember is that on any kind of television uplinking or downlinking, there's a licensing system, there's an entire regulatory framework, which I do not think so is the best thing in the world. Secondly, it is used in a manner in which a lot of television news channels do not get the opportunity of putting across a clear accountability to the government, and there is always a sense of friction. Finally, just coming to what you're saying, for instance, there is a graphic amount of violence, there's blood, there is something which is very disturbing to people by itself. Well, then what is there for the government to hide? Why doesn't it make this notice public? Why doesn't it cite a underlying violation of any law? It has to also say that in the same way, right? Why does it come to our notice through a leak in the media of the notice rather than the government itself, what it does sometimes actually by publishing a PIB release. So what is it hiding?